So we're going to start painting, and this is a smooth Bristol board that I'm working on. It is this Bristol paper, and it's 100-pound paper. So you want usually at least 100-pound paper to hold the paint on it. And you also need masking tape. So what we're doing is creating a border, and you can do this with watercolors as well. And you can see I did it here, and it just creates a nice little border for your painting. It makes it look more finished, I think. And since we're filling the whole background black, it's instead of painting the entire page. I think it looks lovely. So we're just using the masking tape, and what I'm doing is actually also taping the paper down to my table because I'll let it dry like that and then it won't get as warped. If you have thinner paper, that's always a good thing to do. So I don't measure it, just kind of eyeball, give yourself a little space, and you can see through the masking tape onto the paper. I try to make it even, but sometimes it's not. You know, these are handmade things. They don't need to be perfect. Perfection doesn't exist anyway, right? So I try to give it about the same width all around. And that's it. And then you can use the back of your nail. I don't know why I even try painting my nails because they just get destroyed because I do stuff like this. But if you use the back of your nail, you kind of seal it. And you do all four sides, and it helps to get a nice seal on there. Let's see. And then I just slide the back of my nail like that. And you can make it any size that you want. You can make it square, make a rectangle. I'm just deciding my size by what fits in the camera. So go about there. Okay, and then I'm going to take black gouache paint. So I have my black paint here, and I'm putting it into my palette. I'm just using the biggest well in my palette because I'm gonna have to wash my brush and everything after this. I'm doing a good amount because I'm gonna fill the entire page, and I want it, you know, this is really showing off what gouache can do, and gouache can be really opaque, so not transparent at all. So we're making this really opaque and like matte background. I'm gonna add just the tiniest bit of blue to mine. Black is already a really cool color, but I just always add blue to my black. You do not have to do this, but it probably doesn't even show. I don't know, it's just a thing that I do. Okay, and then I'm taking my wide brush, so just use the biggest brush you have. A flat one really helps, and I'm dipping it into water, but not soaking wet. And then I'm just mixing up my paint. And you can go all in one direction. I do need a little more water here. So you can kind of feel it out. It should smoothly go across the page. And you want to fill it all in. So I'm just dipping my brush, and then you can go the other direction. Get a little more paint, a little more water on here. And you don't want it to be too transparent, so I'm almost using too much water now over here, so I need to grab some more paint and fill it in. You could always do 2 layers if your first layer comes out too transparent, because you do want it to be a solid tone. And you can always use more paint. You can get all the way in the edges here. Getting all the white of the paper filled in. Just a few more spots I want to make sure to smooth out. So I'm just trying to smooth everything out. And you can leave it really smooth like this with your brush, can make it really smooth. You can go both directions and get it really smooth, or you can leave the brush strokes showing, which I think looks nice. I'm getting all down, making sure there's no white of the paper showing through. And then I'm going to use just a paper towel crumpled up like this, and I'm gonna add a little texture in the background. You'll barely be able to notice it, but I love texture. So I like doing it. You do not have to do this. And if you get too much, like over here, I want to get it back. So you can always go over it again, or if it looks like too much texture, you can just I'm just kind of lightly running my brush over in some areas. I kind of want a mix of brush strokes and the paper towel texture. So really, make it your own. It's your painting, it's your design. It's however you want it to be. So just decide what you like, and it's gonna look a little different when it dries. So you can look at it when it dries and then make changes. You could always do another layer, but you do want it dark, because another thing with the gouache that's really fun to do is what we're doing is doing light on top of dark, and not all mediums can do that. Or it's not as easy to do with all mediums. So it's a really quick, easy way to create this kind of dark background design that I think can look really striking, and it's just fun. So I'm just gonna use up the rest of my paint since I have it here in my palette, and I might get darker around the edges like a vignette. Always love a vignette. So I'm gonna make sure my edges, my corners are really dark. Might even do my brush strokes like that. I'm just making this up as I go. You can do whatever feels right for you. I'm just like using up all my paint. All right, and then I'm gonna blot out some of the edges of what I just did so it doesn't look too brush strokey. All right, so now I'm gonna let this dry until you can tell if it's totally dry when it doesn't feel cool. When it's wet, it feels a little bit cool to the touch. So you want it to feel not cool. I don't know how long it takes, maybe half hour. I'm gonna clean my brushes, probably have some snacks, and come back and see how it goes. So while this was drying, I cleaned this big brush and cleaned my palette, because I know I'm not going to use this brush again today. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe it'll make a cool texture. So I just wanted to show you how I do it. Is I put my palette down in the sink first, and I just use my bathroom sink, and I clean out the water a couple times to refresh it and make sure, there's no paint on the sides here. So I clean that all out, and then I rinse everything out of my brush, and then I keep this container under my sink, and it's just Ivory soap. So any white soap that's all white and I usually get like unscented, it smells like Ivory soap. And so once I rinse with water, then I go back and forth with my brush. And the reason I use the white soap is because you can tell if there's still paint on it. So I have this with the water flowing over it, and the water is running over it as I'm going back and forth with my brush, basically painting on the soap until the soap looks clean and there's no paint coming off my brush. And then I do a really good job rinsing all the soap out of my brush. I get into the bristles and make sure it's super clean. And if you know you're going to use the brush again, you can just rinse it in the water and not use the soap. So the soap's like end of the day cleanup. And then to let it dry, you want to let your brushes dry flat. So I have a lot of old rags and old t-shirts. I also have a lot of jars around my studio. So sometimes I'll just lay it like that on a jar, or lay it like this on a rag and let it dry, usually overnight at least. And the reason you want to do that is because, you know, most people go to put their paintbrush up in a jar or a mug or something, but that means all the water is going to drip down into the wood part of the brush, and it can start rotting it. And I forget all the names of the parts of the brush. There's names of it, but then this can get really loose. It can, you know, there's glue and whatever else in here. So if you've invested in nice brushes, or if you just want to keep whatever brushes you have around longer, let them dry flat, and then you can store them any way you want. I actually end up storing mine flat in a box or in a drawer, and so they don't get dust on them. So if they're up like this stored, they'll get dust everywhere. Or if I have them in a jar, I'll put them like under a table or in a cabinet or something, so they stay dust free. Those are my tips on keeping your brushes nice.